Welcome, everybody, to the Christine Upchurch Show here in 1150 a.m. KKNW in the Seattle area and on Transformation Talk Radio around the world. So glad you're joining us here today. And if you're not listening live, you might be listening on one of the dozens of podcasts this ends up in or on ChristineUpchurch.com. But whenever and wherever, we're so glad you've joined us, and I think you'll be glad too. But before we introduce our guest, I want to say a happy belated birthday to Mr. Benny Mathers, the man behind all the technology.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a little bit different last week. I was missing in action, but I'm back in full force and effect. Thank you. And I guess it got warmer on top of that cake. Woo, boy, did it. It's hot up there.
29 again, right,
yeah,
Benny?
It's hot up there.
It's funny because when I have a birthday, I have to keep changing it from it was 39 for a really long time, and now eventually it's going to have to change to 49 or something like that. But you're still at that. You can say 29 and get away
Christine,
with it.
I don't know what I'm talking about in there, but those last 2 years, all right, the joints, and see, here we go. I'm starting to talk about it. Just got to breathe. Let it all happen.
Yeah.
It's the wolf eclipse. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh, goodness. I
don't even get to go.
Major energy.
I don't want to go there.
Major energy. And, it is interesting. I don't totally want to buy into the belief of the body aging, but there are aspects of it where it's true. We're in this 3D world, and I think that we can view it as a part of searching for our priorities.
Sure.
Because as the body changes, then we can take less for granted.
Yeah.
As we age, the time gets shorter, we can take less for granted. So, we better hurry up and make our mark here.
Yeah, I definitely remember my mom always mentioning, just listen to your body. A lot.
Wise
Especially
woman.
now. I know she is.
Very wise woman.
Love you, Mom.
Aw.
That's a post-birthday love right there.
That's great. And, yes, and she had to work to get you here, too, I'm sure.
For the most part.
Yeah.
She's got the receipt. She can take me back. That's an inside joke. Because I'm adopted?
I didn't realize
All right,
that.
there's a show topic for another day.
Oh,
yeah,
we
I made a
won't talk
joke.
about that.
I always make a joke. Like if I do something silly or whatever, she's like, really? I'm like, well, just take me back then.
Oh, that's great.
It's funny, though.
Yeah. All righty. Well, I am really grateful today. We're going to be having a different kind of conversation. We are going to be talking to Courtney Kittrell. Oh, my goodness. She is somebody who has succeeded in an arena that we rarely talk to people who've been in. She's a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, and she's got a southern drawl. I can't wait for y'all to hear that. And she's a 20-year veteran with the United States Navy. Her military experiences have made a mark on her life through personal and leadership struggles. And she's had some interesting struggles, and we're going to hear about that. She's been deployed aboard the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, the USS John F. Kennedy, USS Enterprise, not the Star Trek one, and the USS George H.W. Bush. Her journey has taken her to many countries all over the world, and she's a real leader, and she's been motivated to be a voice for others who are not only looking for their own path to leadership, but people who are battling depression, suicidal thoughts, and mental health issues. She lives with her wife, Tiffany, and their dog, Dreyfus, in Chesapeake, Virginia. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Courtney Kittrell.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's always interesting to find out how somebody has gotten to the point where they are sharing their story. And your book recently, I think came out in November, is Unapologetically Favored.
Yes.
A woman, a leader, a testimony.
Yes.
So you've obviously had great success within the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose to write this book?
Well, to be honest, the book was an accident.
Really?
Last November during Veterans Day, I was just so used to always seeing the accolades that people give the military, and with the celebrations of retirements and advancements, promotions, deployments to countries that people just dream about, and we have the privilege of being able to go and experience that. And something came over me to just say, but people don't realize that even though you see us in these glorious moments, social media always shows the best sides of everything majority of the time.
Right.
And people don't realize that even as military members, we struggle We struggle with mental health. We struggle with depression. We struggle feeling like we're not meeting the challenges that are given to us, like we're not, doing all that we can do. And as we start to become leaders in the military, a lot of more of that pressure and burden is put on you to follow the orders coming down from the top, and to ensure you're enforcing those orders, beneath you. You're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. So I made this long post. Most people don't read long posts on Facebook. So unbeknownst to me, people actually read this and started responding and sending me messages saying, thank you so much for speaking out. I thought it was just me. I thought I was the only one that was feeling stressed out or feeling like I couldn't, keep up with the demands that were being put on me.
Wow.
And I came up with the thought process that, maybe I need somebody told me to write a book. A really good girlfriend of mine said, Courtney, you need to write a book. And in my wildest dream, would I have ever done this? I'm like, no, I'm good. But as more people kept saying, no, that might be a really good thing for you because we like the way you write, I said, okay, I'll try this. So I said, okay, this is what I want to do. I want short stories from all different service members from different branches, just a struggle and adversity they went through. How did they overcome that, and what would they give as advice to somebody else that's going through the same thing? And then I want to talk to the spouses and, the partners of these same individuals who get lost. They don't realize that even being a spouse of a military member, it takes a lot. Stress, mental anxiety, just going through everything. And everybody said they were going to send me a story. It's almost going on 2 years. I have not received a story yet.
Oh, my goodness.
So I pressed forward with my own. I said, you know what, maybe I have a story to tell. Maybe somebody wants to be nosy and read about my life. And that is how this book came to be.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always find interesting that seems to be fairly universal in people who end up showing up to motivate others and help others, that each of us ends up going through some difficulties that make us question our worthiness. In what ways did you have to face your own unworthiness issues?
Well, I know when I first got to my command, it was an all-male command. They just started integrating females into this command. And usually in the military, I know for the Navy, can't speak for all branches, but they'll try to start with having like a female in a senior leadership position, just so that if the junior person needs somebody to go talk to about something, they still have that female counterpart they can talk to in a leadership position to help them. So when I got to my first command, they put me in my first work center, and I was in what they call the line division in aviation, dealing with aircraft. And the line division, they call them line rats. So we're responsible for making sure the aircraft gets fuel, towing the aircraft out to the flight line, launching the aircraft off, for flight schedules and everything like that. And it's kind of dirty and grimy and everything. And but when I got in there, I was the only female. So at that time, I was like, am I going to be able to do this? Can I do this? I started questioning my own ability. And I shouldn't have. But when you're unsure of your foundation, you're unsure of your next step, and you're looking around and it's just you start questioning everything about you, including, am I good enough to be here? Am I going to make it? And that was like my real first, oh my goodness, moment when I first came in.
Yeah. And I imagine that men experience the same thing to a certain degree, because I think we're all insecure when we start a new job. But there is that added layer of, once upon a time, women weren't allowed to do this. And therefore, you had to show up and prove them wrong for all of us.
Yes, and I call it, I had to show up and show out. So I had to show up and then prove to them that, just because I may not be exactly like you, my capabilities are still the same as yours. If somebody's going to call on me to do something, I'm going to try to do it to the best of my ability. And it's sad because even to this day, sometimes that mindset is still there with, oh, well, you're a female, you might not be able to do X, Y, and Z, or if a male is having a bad day, it's okay. It's authorized for you to have a bad day. But if a female has a bad day, is it that time of the month?
Yes.
Oh, you're just moody. Oh, you're just depressed, bipolar. Oh, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Need some time off? No, why can't we not be okay with having a bad day?
Yeah. And as a former research statistician, once upon a time, I was working in engineering with engineers who was like a real good old boy network. And when I was put onto a team to do the statistics for them, they acted like I was just some little lady who didn't know what I was talking about. And they had really messed up. And I had to be the one to say, you messed up the experiment. You needed to do this instead. And they didn't believe me. They went to, a male superior, and he's like, yeah, she's right. But it's the kind of thing where I know what it feels like to get into a situation where it's been male dominated and they view you as somebody who's the other, who can't quite do what the men can do. And that feels awful because it does trigger our worthiness issues, It
does. And it's sad that, in 2020, we're still dealing with the first. Why do we still have to have the first? Yeah. Why can't everybody just be equal? Everybody's just, okay, because it might be some guys out there that can't stand up to the next gentleman before them, So why can't we all just be on the same scale and you take people for what they give you, no matter female, no matter sexual orientation, religion, creed, background, history, wherever, why can't we just trust everybody equally until they show you different?
Yes.
That's my thought.
I'm into that. We have to go to a quick break, but when we return, we're going to learn more about Courtney's fascinating story and learn how she's stepped into her worthiness and her leadership role and how she's helping others step into theirs. Stay tuned for more with Courtney Kittrell. Here on KKNW and Transformation Talk Radio. Courtney, I find it interesting that we talk a lot about how when veterans get home, they've got all sorts of PTSD and those sorts of issues. But we haven't been talking a lot about what happens to the mental health of people who are in the military. Why is it that we need to focus on this?
Well, I talked about this topic a while ago in some interviews, and I tell people everybody's mental capacity is not the same. The same way people's pain tolerance is not the same. Yeah. So what one person might be able to endure before they actually reach their max stress limit, the next person might not be able to handle that. So we're always, as just people, we base other people on what we're going through or how we're feeling or what we know. And you can't do that. Everybody is cut from a different cloth. Everybody is different, including your mental capacity. So we have to be mindful of that when somebody's looking like they might be stressed out or, they don't know how to say, hey, I need help. And, the military offers resources. You can go and speak to somebody, but that stigma that if I go to mental health, then maybe I'm crazy. And the feeling of, in the leadership aspect of my life, if I go to mental health and somebody finds out about it, are they going to remove me from my position because now they have lost confidence in my ability to be a leader? Or is somebody going to talk about me and make jokes behind my back instead of making sure that I'm okay every day or asking me, do you need help? What do you have going on at work today? Oh, well, let me take this load off of you. I'll do this for you. Let me know when you're done and we can swap, or just to make sure I'm okay. We don't want to be talked about. We don't want to be judged. We don't want to look like, because we are senior people in the military or you're a senior person in a corporation or organization, that you don't have your life together. That's the last thing you want somebody to think about you, because we're always in tune to how people perceive us. But the military, for the people in the military, there are resources provided. But like anything, you can lead the horse to the water. Whether or not they want to drink it is on them. Yeah. And I've been there myself when I was depressed and, being senior leadership, I knew my resources. I could have called my mom, but I didn't want to burden her with my problems. And we don't want to burden other people because we don't know what you have on your plate. So I don't want to stress you out even more. You might be already stressed out. That's enough. So we keep everything to ourselves because of the reasons I explained a few minutes ago, and we deal with it on our own. And that a lot of times leads to the depression, the stress, and even the suicides that we've been having. Just September, October timeframe, I lost 3 friends within like a week apart from each other. And it was so much. And people blame the commands, they blame the military. And a lot of it's not that. We all have a story. We all have baggage that we bring into the military. We all are in the military either trying to escape from somewhere, from something, whether it's how you raised, not having money, being laid off and can't find a job, or we all have baggage we bring, but we don't tell people about their baggage. And then you get an 18-year-old that comes in that was probably escaping from homelessness. You put them in a job where they're managing billion-dollar pieces of equipment or ships or aircraft, and that pressure to do right, to make sure everything is good to go, to make sure, the pressure is there for them, and they might not be able to handle that.
Yeah. And it's different than, say, working on a manufacturing line that's creating telephones or something.
Correct.
Where it's not a life or death situation. Okay. So if the telephone doesn't work, somebody buys it at the store, they return it. That's different than if somebody messes up in that situation.
It is. And because the manufacturing line, if you're on an assembly line, it's the same thing day in, day out. It's the same thing in the military. You have to be on guard. You have to be fluid like water. You have to be able to bend like a palm tree without breaking. You have to be ready to go at any given moment, just like we witnessed within this past week. You have to be ready. And sometimes I think with the younger generation, they forget that piece because everybody in this world comes to the military to go to school. I think they forget sometimes that, this is the real military and you might have to go to war one day. And so when the time calls, it's like, oh crap, this is for real. And all of a sudden you start thinking about your family. All of a sudden you're thinking about your bills. All of a sudden you're thinking about this house and these cars and these financial obligations you just, committed to. And now you're being deployed and you don't know if you're coming back. You don't know if you're going to get blown up over there by stepping on an IED. You don't know if, a trusted, person is supposed to come through the gate for training or come through the gate for a business meeting, but they're the ones that are a suicide bomber and you just happen to be the gate guard that day. So when these kids get deployed, that's the first thing they're thinking about. And, I watch the jokes on Facebook and I get it for people that's in the military, we know, but we don't really, really know because those kids are scared.
Of course,
those parents are nervous. Their son or daughter might not come back home. We don't know.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to think about as an 18-year-old.
And I imagine that I think about different scenarios and people serving in the military and feeling good on some level about taking the risk of putting their life on the line because they really, truly believe that they are serving their country, serving the world in a positive way. What happens when the news of the day shows that, we may be getting into a war and it might not be for the best and highest good for the world or for our country? That must add another level of stress to these people.
It does. And I know for me personally, sometimes, I think I think about what we're doing and are we doing it right? And of course, that's with everybody. You're going to think about your pros and cons. Is this right, morally, ethically, whatever?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, when you're in the military, that doesn't even matter anymore.
Right.
Because we signed our name on the dotted line. We took an oath to obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me. And we have to remember that oath. We signed that oath and said, no matter what president is in the office, no matter what goes down, we will defend America, however that will be. And that's the only part that when you are a military service member, you're conflicted with that, because you know what you signed up to do. But then sometimes you think, well, this isn't even right.
Right. Oh, that must add a whole other layer of stress.
It does, because you have a lot of people that want to know how you're feeling, or you have to deal with the backlash from people that know you or your family members, or it just and it's nothing that you can do unless you decide to get out the military. But you got to make sure you meet your contract. But while you are in, you are here to defend America, no matter what.
Wow, and that no matter what is. I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine, but I really can't imagine. And so one of the things I'm curious about is how, if people aren't taking the option of going and talking to that mental health professional or, going through the official channel to get that support, how is it somebody in leadership, whether we're talking the military or otherwise, can support people through their struggles while they're also doing their job?
I tell people, keep an eye open for people that are around you. When you work with people for so long, you learn their habits, you learn their nature, the nature of their character, you learn their routines, you know them because you have a professional working relationship, or maybe, you're even friends outside of work. But that one day that the happiest person in the command comes in and they're no longer happy, you need to question them, ask them what's going on, be legit, genuinely serious about it. And even if the first time it doesn't work, keep going back. Hey, I'm here for you. I know I've seen that you're kind of off. Let me know if you need something for real. You can call my number and keep checking up on them, because after a while, they're going to be like, dang, this person keeps checking on me. Okay, maybe I can trust them and go talk to them. But peer-to-peer mentorship is always the number one thing, because you somehow you will build a good trusting relationship with one peer, or maybe 5 or 10 dozen. I don't know. But peer-to-peer relationships is always a good thing, a good place to start, and keeping your eye open to notice if there's any shift in somebody's mannerisms or attitude or their behavior. And when I say this, I call it my C stories, because what Navy folk do. So some C stories. I was on deployment on the Enterprise, and there was an E6, a petty officer first class, who committed suicide on the ship. He hung himself in his office, and his chief found him 6 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Oh, dear.
And throughout the investigation, a lot of the sailors were saying, well, oh my gosh, like, he works days, he's on a day schedule, but he was up at 11 midnight last night eating down on the mess decks. Oh, I saw him in the gym at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh, well, he was smoking in this outside, in the smoke pit. And I was like, why are you up? That was so far out of his character, and nobody connected the dots. And I said, he was doing his last rituals. He was getting everything in one last time before he committed the act.
Right.
So you have to have a third eye, so to speak, to see these things, and to know, if you know the people, you will know when they are off.
Yeah. And that, in some ways, whether we're talking about the military or whether we're talking about the business world, the personal and professional, we think about keeping those separate. But you're saying it's important to make it personal when the signs are there.
Yes, because sometimes you might be the only thing that person has at that time. Or even, I always tell people the word hello is stronger than you think, because you might speak to somebody on a day where you don't even know that person is having the worst day of their life, and they were thinking about ending it all. But because you spoke to them, you might have said, oh my God, they spoke to me. Can I talk to you for a minute? I just want to run something by you real fast. That might have opened a door for them to walk through.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing who your people are and talking to them. Just talk to people.
We have to go to another quick break, but when we return, we're going to talk to Courtney about what it was like being a lesbian during the don't ask, don't tell era of our military. I'm sure she's got some stories to tell about that. Stay tuned for more here on The Christine Upchurch Show. Welcome back to The Christine Upchurch Show here on KKNW and Transformation Talk Radio. We're talking to author Courtney Kittrell today, and she's the author of Unapologetically Favored, A Woman, a Leader, a Testimony. Now, in your book, you talk about how sort of your path to really defining or admitting to your sexual orientation was not exactly direct. Can you share a little with our listeners about your process?
Yes. So growing up, I knew I was different. I knew that it was just, I just knew I was different. But when you grow up and you're the only person that you know, or you don't have anybody that has whatever that quality is that you're feeling, that you're trying to figure out, you keep everything to yourself. And we have a thing where, we always want to do what is right. So right for me was dating guys, getting married, having 2.3 kids, white picket fence, house and a dog, the whole 9 yards, sunny every day on the beach, So growing up, I struggled with that. And I lived my life according to how I thought other people wanted me to live my life, instead of me living my life for myself and being honest with myself. And joining the military, I ended up getting married, and I was not happy. and I drug a guy through a relationship, through a marriage where I said I was selfish, and to this day, I can still say I was selfish because that was years of his life that he can't get back. And he could have been with somebody that not only was in love with him, but loved him as well. Mm-hmm. I just loved him. I wasn't in love with him.
Right.
But I was living my life for other people, so I didn't want to be a disappointment to my family. I didn't know how to accept who I was. I didn't know how to love myself. Mm-hmm. I had nobody to talk to because I didn't know nobody else that, was a lesbian. So it was a real struggle. And being young, again, that comes to that mental stress capacity where I'm stressed out being married. I'm stressed out not being able to talk about what I'm going through because I don't have anybody at that time as a mentor to guide me.
And I think that when you're not being authentic, regardless of how that's defined, it creates this level of stress that never goes away.
It does. And especially if you have some missteps during that time, because you regret it. You regret hurting people because you didn't know how to be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. You regret lying to somebody because you couldn't be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. You regret not being upfront and honest because you didn't know how to love yourself. And that was my problem. And I was dealing with this, in my personal life, and then being in the military, having to go to work every day and not being able to have a pressure release valve to kind of get this pressure off of me, to get these feelings out. I couldn't say anything. It was a really, really tight and stressful time in my early 20s during that time.
How long were you married for?
Probably about 2 years. I think it was about 2 years.
Yeah. So eventually you figured out how to be authentic with your sexual orientation.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it must have been like to be in the armed services during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell era as a homosexual.
It was scary.
In what way? Tell me what you were worried about. Tell me how it was scary.
After I ended up getting a divorce, and I have this newfound relationship. I have this newfound love of my first girlfriend, and I want to share it. I want to talk about, what my girlfriend's doing at home, right. When, I'm out at work with my coworker or at lunch with my coworkers, but I can't say anything. And every time I bring up a story, it's always, my friend, that's a girl, or it's, my roommate, or, I have a friend that does X, Y, and Z, but you can't partake in the conversations and the joy that everybody else is sharing when they're sharing stories about their home life. You have to sit there and just kind of keep everything subdued and keep it quiet, because if you say something, you don't know if you can trust the people you're talking to.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to run and mistakenly mention it to somebody else who can't stand gays and lesbians, and now they want to find a reason to put you out the military. Yeah. You take a chance every day thinking about, okay, is this the right time to say something? Or can I trust this person? If I just want to talk about something that I'm going through right now, who can I tell? You take a risk every day, and it was really stressful.
Yeah. So eventually that policy changed.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere during your career.
Yeah.
What was the transition like for people, for you and for others?
Well, at that time, nothing happened. And the military was geared up. They were setting up trainings. They were setting up videos, lectures. Like, we were about to, get this brand new type of creature into the world. And it was crazy to me, because I'm sitting back going, y'all do know we've been here since the beginning of time, right? We just never said anything. Like, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
And that was one of when I was a guest speaker for my base's LGBT celebration month last June, and I did my speech. And I told them, I said, everybody was bracing for shock. Everybody was thinking like there was going to be this big old wrecking ball that's going to come through the military and wipe everybody out when everybody came out the closet. But it's not the generation now. The generations now, they don't care who you are. They just want to know that if we go out on a mission, if I go out, at night with you to go party, I just want to know if something happens, you have my back, and I will get home safely to my family. Right. Take care of me, and I will take care of you. It was the older generations that were like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Are we good? Is everybody okay? Does anybody need anything? And we've been here the whole entire time.
And it's interesting too, because I've got a couple of sons who are, in their like early to mid 20s, and hearing about the fluidity of sexuality these days amongst people, it's like it's a whole different world than when I was that age.
It is. because we're so empowered now to just be who you are, So I think they take it to a whole nother level.
Right. Okay, so I know things have changed within the military for transgenders. How has that affected people?
Well, right now, they keep going back and forth with the policies and the instructions and what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I actually right now, even this morning, I have the pleasure of having a friend that's transgender. Her name is Vanessa, and I love her to death. But going through the process last year, her and I sat down. I said, now is the time you're going to be in a spotlight. Because it's not as the transgender community is not as it's not that many of them in the military.
Right.
I know about a good handful of them, but majority of them are female to male. So it's kind of like, I don't know, for some reason, it's like, oh, okay, that's okay. But you get the male to female, everybody's like, ah. So, but with Vanessa, I sat her down and I had a conversation with her, and I said, I want you to know that you need to be okay with who you are. You need to have confidence in who you are. When you put those heels on, you better stand erect. And when you walk into the room, suck the air out of it to let people know that you are there, because you need to own it. The minute that you feel like I'm not sure or I'm scared, that is when the attack will happen. But if you walk into a room with your head held high, confidence, and you keep being who you are, nobody's going to mess with you. Nobody's going to care. But people are scared of what they don't know and what they don't understand. So they will either pick at it, make smart comments, or judge it, or they'll just run away from it altogether.
Right. Yeah, owning who we are, that's a biggie. We're going to take another quick break, but stay tuned for more here in just a few moments. Before we go any further, Courtney, I want you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you and how they can find out about your book.
Well, my book is available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Nobles. It's at Books A Million. If you Google it, it's going to pop up everywhere. And I also have a website where you can follow me in all my interviews and stay up to date with everything that I have going on. And it's unapologeticallyfavored.com.
So why did you name your book that? Unapologetically Favored.
So going through my life, I had some setbacks and some missteps. But for some reason, I felt like it was a purpose for me. I didn't really get to that point till later on in my life. But I started trusting people around me that saw something in me that said, hey, even though you're going through this bad time, you're still worth something. Let me put you in this position. And I would go into that position and I would flourish. And I'm like, oh. I started seeing the fruits of my labor. So I started trusting the process and the people around me because nobody had failed me yet. So I got to one command, and I had a situation where one of the females in our Navy, she was an African American female, and she was up there in the leadership. And her and I are friends to this day. And we decided to have a dinner one time, and she posted pictures on social media. And it wasn't really well received, and it made for an awkward time at the command because all eyes were on the females at this dinner party, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I just wanted to transfer. So I had some girlfriends of mine that were trying to convince me to go to a going away dinner, lunch, and I didn't want to go because I didn't want to deal with the situation. And they proceeded to tell a pastor that worked at the command my story. So he said, have you ever heard the story of Ruth? And I said, well, I went to church, but I wasn't like the 7-day-a-week type person that went to church.
Right.
I went on Sundays. That was it. And so he told me the story. And at the end, he said, favor is not fair and it's unapologetic. So are you mad because you have been favored throughout your life? Or are you mad because the people who are upset with you won't apologize? And at that moment, I said, you know what? I have been favored. As I started looking back, everything I have done, somebody was there to catch me every time I fail. Somebody was there to motivate me and push me outside of my limiting beliefs. The limits I set on myself because I only believed I could reach a certain point. Somebody said, no, you can do more. You can go further. And they kept pushing me and kept pushing me. And I said, I'm not going to apologize for the friends, the relationships, the family that I have built and made while I've been in. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to apologize for being favored. And so I said, that kind of just sums up my whole life. I've been unapologetically favored this whole entire time and didn't know it. So,
and I think that one of the things you're saying that feels really important to me is that I think that girls and women in particular, if they have felt the least bit favored, they feel guilty about it.
Don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. What they choose to do with their hours has nothing to do with you. And I had to learn that. I had to realize that what somebody else eats doesn't make me go to the bathroom. Yeah. So why am I worried about that? Do what you have to do. If you start focusing, if you're in a swim lane and you start focusing on other people in their swim lanes, you are going to lose the race in life. You got to stay focused and committed to yourself, love yourself. And that's the only way you're going to get ahead in life.
Another message that you just talked about in that story is that there were people for you who saw something in you, and despite the fact that, you know, it didn't look perfect, they gave you the opportunity. Yeah. Why is it important that we give people the benefit of the doubt and offer them the chance to sort of really show up?
Because, you know, even I apply this at work. You and I have done this before, and I know it works. People want to feel a part of the team. We all like accolades. We all like somebody saying, hey, good job. But we like it even more when we achieve a task or when somebody gives us an opportunity to do something and we accomplish it. Not only are we excited because the person is like, oh my gosh, congratulations, but it makes us feel good. Yeah. It builds our confidence. It builds our awareness. It builds, you know, the knowledge and the ability that I can do this. I can be somebody. I can complete this task. I can get to this goal, this finish line. It builds us up. So if you want people to be a part of the team, if you want people to be invested into something, you have to invest in them and give them the opportunity to show you that they can do it. If they can't do it, that's fine. Now take their hand, mentor them, guide them so that they can do it. Don't just leave them by the wayside because they couldn't show you the first time. They might not know how. They might need somebody to be there because they're still unsure and unsteady on their feet. Grab their hand, show them that you care, show them you're invested, and I promise you, they will put forth 110% of the effort that you allow them to do when you allow them to do the opportunity that you give them.
Makes sense. And I think about how people are parenting these days, and I think that people tend to do way too much for their kids, and I was guilty of that in some respects with my own children. And I think it really does them a disservice because if you're doing for them or not allowing them the opportunity to try, then you're saying to them on some unspoken level, you can't do this, or you're not good enough to do this. You're not worthy to do this.
Or when they get into a situation as an adult where they have to do it, they don't know.
Exactly.
They don't know.
Yes.
And that's what I dealt with when I was working in boot camp as a recruit division commander, RDC, drill sergeant, for the Navy. I had a lot of young people that were coming into the military that never made their beds, never had to wash their clothes, never had to shave. I had females that couldn't use feminine hygiene products because they've never had to do any of this. They were never taught how. I have kids today now at work that don't have a driver's license, but you're married and you have a family. How are you getting to work, son?
Right.
They don't know. And we do a disservice by doing everything for them because eventually they have to figure out how to maintain and stand up on their own as an adult.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. So as a leader and a mentor, in a couple of minutes, do you have a final message for those of us who are on our paths, who wish we had a mentor like you, but you can be our mentor here for just a moment? What message do you have for us?
I will leave everybody with this message. 2020 is the year of forgiveness, whether you're forgiving people that have hurt you or you have forgiven yourself for not having strength and courage to do whatever in life that it was that you do. 2020 is the year of owning who you are, loving who you are, seeking mental help without worrying about what other people think. 2020 is the year of just becoming a better version of yourself than what you were last year. Time is too short. Don't let it slip away. You can be here today and gone tomorrow. Stand up, find your purpose in life, and walk in it.
So you mentioned something that you hadn't talked about before, and that is forgiveness. Why is that an important piece of all of this?
That's the only thing that would ease your mind. Once all is forgiven, there's no more worries. Why worry about it? Let go, let God. Don't worry about it anymore after that.
And what's your vision for long-term for the military here in the United States? Do you think that there's going to be anything that changes in terms of how things are done within the military?
There's always changes, really. I mean, that's the only thing that stays consistent is all the changes that we go through. But I think, right now the military is moving forward in a good way, in a good direction. But as the culture and environment changes, as the world changes around us, we are constantly evolving to make sure we're meeting the needs of, America. With now everything's social media, now everything is technology. So we're forever evolving, but our evolution is in a positive light. I think the military is doing well. They're maintaining, they're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And we're just, as long as we're keeping America safe, I say the military is doing a wonderful job.
Mm-hmm. And what about supporting people coming out of the military? Because I know that's a big issue. Where do you think we need to go in that direction?
With that situation, as far as the mental health aspect, and this is Courtney Kittrell's opinion, it's easy to tell somebody or, have somebody come out with a certificate saying, hey, you passed your exam, you passed the schooling, now you can go help somebody with mental health in the military. To me, it's not that simple, because the only way you can relate to somebody is to have empathy and know what that person has been through. Right. If you can't relate to being overseas and being blown up by IEDs, or if you can't relate to being on deployment that's getting extended, or being on deployment and family members are dying at home and there's nothing you can do about it, you can't be there for your family, you won't understand what a service member is going through. And right now, we do have a shortage of mental health care providers, because now that people are coming out and they're actually accepting and acknowledging the fact that they need help, there's way more of us than it is of them. And the providers are being overwhelmed. Their stress level is high too. So it's I don't know. I feel like the mental health provider situation needs to be cleaned up a little bit more, if not enhanced 1,000 times over.
Yeah, and I hope that people like you will come out and help others in this respect. Again, I want to mention the title of your book, Unapologetically Favored, and also it's unapologeticallyfavored.com. Courtney, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful.
And thank you for joining us here today. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you'd like to empower yourself to step further into your vibration of change, please visit my website at christineupchurch.com, where you can learn more about my insights, upcoming events, and private sessions.